Hi everyone! This video is to show you how to combine images. We're going to use the foreground from one image and the background from the other. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my viewing. I'm going to go to Window and I'm going to change my Arrange to 2 up vertical. This will allow both my images side by side. Now I actually don't need both images up because I'm going to combine them, so I'm going to drag one image into the other. I'm going to hold down the Move tool, click on my statue, and drag it over to my sky. Now you'll see it added. Change this back up to consolidate on one tab, and now I have both my images in one file. The first thing I need to do in order to remove the background is to select the part of the images I don't want. Now, based on the information here, I can do one of two things. I can select the background, or I can select the actual statue. Now, it appears to me that it would be easier to select the background because of the consistent color value. So I'm going to grab what's called my Quick Selection tool. And with my Quick Selection, I'm going to click and drag in the blue area. If you're getting a different result when you click and drag, make sure you have your Quick Selection with the plus sign showing. Now, as you can see when you first look at this, you're not getting the perfect results. And you can change and adjust more or less of the selection that is happening. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command or Control plus. I'm just zooming in a bit. If you don't want to know the shortcut, you can grab the zoom tool on your toolbar and click and drag over the area that you want to focus on. Now what I'm noticing is my little, what I like to refer to as marching ants, but they are also just a marquee. It's a form of selecting. Nothing's actually happening to your work, you're just telling the computer what you want to be selected. So I'm going back to my Quick Selection tool and holding down the Alt key, I'm going to drag in this to add more to my selection. Now, the reason why the Alt key is working is because this is what I don't have selected, this is what I do have selected. And you can tell because my little marching ants are happening on the outside of my form. If this was reversed, then you would want to hold down Shift. So it adds. And then Alt, bring it back. So depending on what it is that you need to select or not select, use a Shift or Alt. So I'm just kind of going around and getting my details here of my fingers and forms. And again, this may or may not be perfect, but it'll get me closer. Again, holding down Alt, I'm just dragging across my head here. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here on the fingers. Holding down my space bar, I'm moving my page around. And again, holding down Alt, I'm going to go ahead and select more of my fingers here. Again, the reason why Alt is working is because I have my background selected, not my foreground. If I want to reverse this and select my foreground, go hold down Shift, and then it'll go back in. So depending on what it is that you want. Alt, Shift. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a quick little skim around here, make sure that my marching ants are getting what I want. Again, that's your selection form. So I see I missed a little part right there. Let's just take a look at down here. Okay, that looks good. So just a little bit right here. Again, holding down Alt, I'm going to just add that Quick Selection. All right, so I'm going to zoom out by hitting Control 0. And you can see my little statue here. Now, As I said before, we have our background selected, but what we need to do is have our foreground selected, and that's our actual statue. So I'm going to go up to Select on my menus bar and choose Select Inverse. Now I have just my statue selected. I'm going to go to my Layers panel and I'm going to choose Masking, and that's this little icon here that looks like the Japanese flag. So go ahead and click that, and now we have no background and we have our sky behind. Now we can make adjustments to this by having our mask selected. You can tell something's selected because it creates a white frame around it. If I go back to my blue here, if I do something, it's on my actual artwork, but what I want is it to be on my mask. That's the black and white thumbnail that's happening directly next to my statue picture. And in the Properties panel, you'll see several different options in regards to this mask. For example, if I zoom in, let's say you don't want that type of line, you want something a little bit softer, feathered. You can feather your line, or you can not feather it. You can decrease the density. Be aware if you do this though, you're actually making the image come back because you're allowing a portion of the image to still show. Let's say you accidentally forgot to inverse it and your image looks like this, right? Uh-oh. There's a quick little button for this, and that's your invert button, which is much friendlier than having to go up and select inverse and change your form. So if you have a little mistake with your masking, go ahead and click that button. For the most part, you should have a clean form. But let's say for some reason you need to clean even more of it. You're getting a halo of a color, you're having a situation, the feather's not doing it, and there's other issues that you're just not quite happy with. The mask is simply just hiding parts of the image that you do not want to show. In this case, I didn't want to show the previous blue background. I want to show a beautiful bright sky. With this feature, you can choose how much or how little you show. If you have the actual mask thumbnail selected and you use a paintbrush tool, if you paint with black, you hide. If you paint with white, you show. Okay? If I increase my opacity here and paint back, you see 100% of the image coming back or 100% of the image missing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Alt-Command-Z to undo a couple features here. Why this is important for you to be able to cut or remove. If you hold down Shift and click on the mask thumbnail, you will see the whole image is intact. You are not permanently editing, deleting, or ruining the original image. You are simply hiding it. It's just a mask. So with that, you're cutting the mask into any form you want. So holding down Shift, I can click that again. And if I hold down the Command button or Control for you and click that button, you can see it creates marching ants again. Or I can deselect that by hitting Control D. And if I hold Alt and click on that mask, you'll see the form of the mask in black and white. This is great if you need to clean up anything specifically. So for example, let's say that little hair right there, I can paint with white. Or this little crease here, I can paint with white. You can see if you have too much of a blur happening. Okay, what if you made a mistake and you over-blurred? That's okay too. You can go back, change the type of brush that you want, including the feathering, paint with black, and you can put it back. This is when, if you have a tablet form, it can be very, very helpful. because they're pressure sensitive and they get the clean forms. Now I'm just using my mouse to show you so it's consistent with your forms, but you can see the benefit of utilizing them. You can see the feathering that's happening or the pixelation, any adjustments necessary that you want to choose. You can choose your brush size and all the visual effects. What's also great is you can show the image going back. Again, I was just holding down Alt and clicking on the thumbnail, and I can go in and close up, and I can look and clean up my form by holding down black here and painting the area that I don't want the dark blue showing. Now, I recommend you not using too crisp of a form because you can see it very abruptly unless you go this close up. I recommend using just the slightest bit of a soft edge or blur so that way it blends it with the image and it doesn't look so cut out with scissors, but more natural and truly photographed. So I'm just looking at the dark edges that are happening from the shadowing. This happens to be a really poor image as far as quality, so it's just, again, just a learning tool, not one I'd recommend actually utilizing for print. But you can kind of see the details or effects of getting rid of the blue outer edging. So I just paid attention to this little area, but you can already see how much cleaner and crisp it is rather than having that black halo effect that's around your form. In addition to making any corrections with the brush tool, you can actually utilize some of the properties inside the masking panel as well. One of the options is to select the mask. If you select here, you'll see the mask itself has much more options to apply. One is I want this to be 100% opaque, so I'm going to get rid of the sky that was previously on the picture 100%. Next, I want to check out my edges, and I'm focusing here on the sides where I'm kind of getting a little bit of a black halo effect. So a few things I want to do is up my contrast. I also want to adjust my smoothness and shift my edge. That is much better. Now you can see a clear definition on the side where you do not get that gray halo effect. Once I'm happy, go ahead and hit OK, and it brings me back to my settings. Now I want you to go ahead and try combining two images and playing with the mask feature. Once you've completed this stage of your exercise, combining your two images, go ahead and go to File, Save As. Using the naming system shown in class, Exercise 4, last name, first name, capitalizing your first and last initial, I go ahead and put an underscore and the number associated with the exercise, using 1 for combining images. Now for me, all you need is a JPEG, so go ahead and change your format to JPEG. But I'd still recommend you saving the Photoshop file for yourself, in case you want to make any changes later. Now that you have this saved, go ahead to the next video.